In the stillness of night, when the world outside grows quiet, the imagination can drift back through layers of time. We close our eyes and wonder, what did Earth look like long before us, in an age so distant that the continents themselves wore different faces? Tonight, we travel to the Permian Period, a chapter in Earth's history that ended nearly 252 million years ago. It was a world of extremes, where the land had gathered into one vast supercontinent called Pangaea, and the seas spread wide and deep around it. The climate swayed between parched deserts and fertile coastlines, and strange life forms, both familiar and alien, flourished under skies heavy with shifting winds. To picture this world is to step into an almost dreamlike landscape. Endless stretches of red sandstone, rivers carving their way through canyons, forests of tall conifers whispering in dry breezes. Early reptiles, ancestors of both mammals and dinosaurs, moved cautiously through the undergrowth. Some were small and quick, others armoured and strange, as if Earth was still experimenting with the shapes of life. And above them the sky bore the same stars we see tonight, though looked upon by eyes so ancient they feel almost unreachable. As we drift into this journey, keep your thoughts open. Let the science and the speculation intertwine like threads of a tapestry. This is Arcane Skies. If you enjoy these quiet travels through forgotten worlds, you may wish to like, subscribe, and share where and when you're watching tonight. Imagine standing at the edge of a coastline that no longer exists. The sea before you is not the Pacific or the Atlantic, but an ancient expanse that modern maps cannot name. The air is warm, tinged with a dryness that hints at the vast deserts lying further inland. It is the Permian Period, more than 250 million years ago, and the Earth, you know, has gathered its land into a single, colossal continent, Pangaea. This name, derived from Greek, means all Earth, and it is no exaggeration. Nearly every piece of land is fused together, stretching from pole to pole, an unbroken sweep of mountains, deserts, rivers, and forests. To walk across it, if such a journey were possible, would take a lifetime upon lifetime. The climate of this world is a story of extremes. In the heart of Pangaea, far from the cooling influence of the sea, the land bakes under relentless sun. Winds carry dust over endless dunes, and rain is scarce. Imagine sand that stretches beyond the horizon, shimmering beneath a sky where clouds are reluctant to gather. But along the coast, life clings more readily. Lush forests rise where rivers meet the sea, and creatures thrive in the humid air. It is a planet of contrast, where abundance and desolation coexist, separated by nothing more than distance and shifting winds. The animals of this time are both strange and familiar. Reptiles dominate the land, their scales glistening under the sun, their bodies adapted to heat and dryness. Among them are the synapsids, a group of creatures that, though reptilian in appearance, are the distant ancestors of mammals. Some, like Dimetrodon, carry towering sails along their backs, thin sheets of bone and skin that catch the light like a banner. These sails may have regulated body temperature, or perhaps they were signals of dominance, silent conversations held in the language of shape and form. Others, such as the stocky Dicynodonts, are herbivores with beaked mouths and tusks, lumbering across the plains in search of hardy vegetation. If you were to sit quietly in the shadow of a Permian forest, you might hear the rustle of conifer needles swaying in dry breezes, or the distant call of a reptile echoing across a riverbed. The plants themselves are ancient yet recognizable. Tall conifers, seed ferns, and horsetails rise from the soil, their leaves forming dappled patterns of shadow upon the ground. The smell would be sharp and resinous, like the scent of pine mixed with the dust of a sun-baked canyon. Insects buzz and crawl through the undergrowth, their wings catching glimmers of sunlight. Dragonflies, larger than any you have seen, dart through the air, as if testing the limits of flight in this evolving world. And yet, for all the familiarity, this is not Earth as we know it. The oxygen levels are different, the atmosphere thicker with carbon dioxide, shaping the lives of every organism. Storms gather differently, oceans circulate with another rhythm, and the pulse of the planet feels alien, though it beats beneath the same stars we look upon tonight. When we imagine this world, we are not only reconstructing its bones and stones, but also breathing life into possibilities. What did the air truly feel like against the skin of those ancient creatures? What colours filled their vision? What scents carried across the wind before a storm? Science offers us fragments, fossils locked in stone, sediments layered in cliffs, chemical traces left in minerals. Each clue is a whisper, faint yet persistent, suggesting what once was. From these, paleontologists piece together the landscapes of deep time. A vertebra tells of size and strength, a tooth of diet and behaviour, a ripple in rock of rivers long vanished. The Permian becomes a mosaic, built from countless fragments, always incomplete, always open to interpretation. It is both real and imagined, a world solid in evidence yet fluid in detail, inviting us to wander through its possibilities. Consider for a moment how small we feel when gazing upon a desert today, its silence stretching endlessly in all directions. Now multiply that sense by 100-fold, and you may approach what it felt like to stand in the centre of Pangaea. There were no oceans nearby to temper the seasons. Summers could scorch with unrelenting heat, and winters could bite with a cold, sharpened by distance from the sea. Life that survived here was hardy, shaped by pressures unfamiliar to us. Perhaps it was in such crucibles that resilience, the quality we later inherit, was first forged. The Permian also reminds us that Earth has not always been gentle. This period ended with the greatest extinction the planet has ever known, wiping away nearly all marine life and most species on land. But here, at the beginning of our story, that catastrophe is still far in the future. For now, life flourishes in its many forms, unaware of what lies ahead. In a way, it is like looking at a photograph of a family, smiling in a moment before an unforeseen storm changes everything. And so, as you drift deeper into this imagined journey, let your mind wander across the sands and forests of Pangaea. Hear the crunch of stone beneath your feet, feel the dry wind brushing against your skin, and watch the silhouettes of reptiles move against the setting sun. In this world, both familiar and foreign, we glimpse not only the history of life, but also the fragility of existence itself. What lessons linger in the silence of those ancient deserts? What wisdom rests in the fossils buried beneath our modern soil, waiting for us to listen? The sun rises over Pangaea, a pale disk blurred by dust hanging in the air. Its light spills across a horizon that seems impossibly vast, an unbroken line where the red of sandstone meets the pale blue of morning sky. If you stood here, you would notice how the air feels different from what we breathe today, slightly heavier, more laden with gases that shaped both climate and life. The Permian atmosphere contained more carbon dioxide than ours, feeding plants but also driving fluctuations in temperature. Oxygen, while present, ebbed and flowed in concentration, at times lower than we are accustomed to, pressing life to adapt in ways subtle and profound. In this world, the heartbeat of the planet itself felt closer, Volcanoes rumbled across the land, their plumes rising like silent prayers into the sky. Lava carved fresh scars into the crust, and ash settled like snow upon ancient forests. These eruptions were not only destructive, they were also creative, pouring minerals into soil, shaping the chemistry of oceans, and altering the balance of gases in the air. The earth of the Permian was restless, never still, as though aware of the transitions it would soon endure. Close to the coasts, where rivers branched into estuaries and marshes, life displayed its creativity. Amphibians lingered here, clinging to their ancient bond with water. Their slick bodies glistened in the sun as they slid between pools, croaking in the stillness of dawn. Some were small, no larger than a hand, others grew immense, rivaling crocodiles in size, with broad heads and powerful jaws. To modern eyes they would appear monstrous, yet they were the inheritors of Devonian fish, testing the boundaries between water and land. They remind us of thresholds, moments when life hesitates at the edge of one realm and dares to step into another. The forests echoed with other voices too. Early insects thrived in this age, buzzing wings filling the humid air. Some dragonflies stretched nearly a foot across, their transparent wings catching the light like stained glass windows. Beetles crawled among roots and fallen needles, their shells gleaming with metallic sheen. To sit quietly and watch would be to see a choreography, both alien and familiar. Patterns of feeding, pollination, and predation that set the stage for ecosystems still unfolding in our time. And then there were the synapsids, the so-called mammal-like reptiles. Though that name does not quite do them justice. They were not yet mammals, but they carried within them the seeds of what we would become. Some were predators, sleek and agile, with teeth designed to shear flesh. Others were herbivores, heavy-bodied, their beaks cropping leaves and stems with slow determination. To watch a herd of Dicynodonts shuffle across a floodplain would be to glimpse the distant origins of herding behaviour, of social structures that echo faintly into the mammalian future. Their tusks glistened as they dug for roots, and their eyes set deep in bony skulls reflected a quiet determination to endure. It is easy to imagine such creatures as primitive, yet they were perfectly suited to their time. Evolution does not plan ahead. It crafts solutions for the present moment. In this sense, the creatures of the Permian were not on their way to becoming something else. They were ends in themselves, thriving in their niches, unaware of what future shapes their descendants might take. Perhaps this is a lesson whispered by the fossils, that each form of life, no matter how strange, is complete in its own existence. Still, as we picture these beings moving under the ancient sun, questions linger. Did a Dimetrodon, with its great sail raised, feel the warmth on its back as sensation, as comfort? Did it notice its own reflection in still water, or recognise the shadow of another passing nearby? We cannot know for certain, but in asking, we extend a bridge of empathy across time, allowing these vanished lives to brush against our own. The land itself was a character in this unfolding drama. Mountain ranges rose where tectonic plates collided, their peaks dusted with snow, even as deserts spread below. Rivers carved valleys, carrying sediments that recorded each flood and drought in layers we read today like pages of a book. The colours of the landscape were vivid, iron-rich sands painted in reds and oranges, forests of conifers casting green shadows, the shimmer of mica flakes in riverbeds. To walk through such a land would be to see geology not as static stone, but as a living canvas, shifting and reshaping with each season, each eruption, each storm. Nightfall in the Permian brought another kind of beauty. Without the glow of cities, the stars stretched unbroken across the sky, brilliant in their numbers. The Milky Way arched overhead, like a river of light, while comets and meteors occasionally traced silver lines through the dark. Perhaps some creatures notice these movements, pausing to watch the sky as we do, or perhaps the cosmos passed unseen, silent witness to the dramas unfolding below. We often forget that the stars we admire are ancient companions, the same lights that shone upon the Permian world, bearing witness to its triumphs and its tragedies. Science tells us that the Permian will end in cataclysm, with volcanic outpourings and climate shift so severe that nearly all life will vanish. But here, in the midst of this long chapter, such an ending is unimaginable. Life fills the rivers, the forests, the plains. The balance, though fragile, holds steady. To step into this time is to enter a world that feels both eternal and precarious, poised on the knife edge of change. As you let this vision settle in your mind, picture the soft rasp of wind over stone, the gleam of scales under fading sunlight, the creak of trees swaying in dry air. Let your breath match the slow rhythm of this ancient earth, where each moment carries the weight of millions of years. And ask yourself, when we look back at this distant age, are we seeing a chapter of history, or are we seeing a mirror reflecting our own place in the story of life? The morning air over Pangaea is sharp, filled with the mingled scents of resin from conifers and the dry mineral tang of dust drifting from inland deserts. In this stillness, the land seems eternal, but hidden within every stone and root is a record of constant change. The earth of the Permian is alive with motion, though its rhythms are slower than we can easily imagine. Mountains rise grain by grain, oceans shift their tides across ages, and the continents themselves drift almost imperceptibly toward their next arrangement. At the heart of this world is the vast desert stretching across the interior of Pangaea. To cross it would be to walk days without sight of water, the horizon trembling in waves of heat. Dunes rise and fall like frozen seas, sculpted by winds that howl unbroken across thousands of miles. Yet even here, life persists. Tiny burrows hide creatures that escape the day's scorching sun, emerging at dusk to feed. Sparse plants with deep roots clutch at the sand, their survival a testimony to patience and endurance. We often think of deserts as empty, but in truth they are filled with hidden lives, quiet strategies honed by necessity. Perhaps the Permian deserts whispered the same lesson. That persistence is its own form of abundance. Closer to the margins of rivers and lakes, the picture softens. Here, groves of seed ferns spread wide fronds that shimmer under the sunlight, while horsetails line the muddy banks in dense stands. Conifers stretch their crowns into the sky, casting cool shadows over damp soil. These forests are homes to synapsids and amphibians alike, each playing a role in a delicate balance. Imagine the low call of a reptile echoing between tree trunks, or the ripple of water as an amphibian slides beneath the surface. The air hums with insect wings, carrying the faint sweetness of resin and the earthy smell of wet ground. In these spaces, predator and prey enact their ancient dance. A sleek Gorgonopsid, with saber-like teeth gleaming, waits in ambush, its body tensed in the undergrowth. It is among the apex predators of its time, fierce and specialized, a hunter that commands fear. Across the clearing, a group of Dicynodonts grazes, their tusks digging into the soil for roots. They are heavy, slow, but not defenseless, for there is safety in numbers and awareness in companionship. One lifts its head, nostrils flaring at a change in the wind. The moment hangs suspended, predator and prey bound together by the possibility of action, yet also by the stillness before it. Such moments are timeless, repeating across eras, unchanged in essence though the cast of creatures shifts with evolution. The seas of the Permian tell a different story. While much of the land gathered in one mass, the ocean called Panthalassa encircled it, immense and largely featureless, like an endless blue desert. But along its shallows, life thrived. Coral-like organisms built reefs, though of different species than those we know today. Fish of every size glided through the currents, their scales flashing silver as they caught the light. Sharks patrolled the depths, some small and nimble, others massive, their shadows gliding across the seafloor. In these waters, Ammonites, spiral-shelled relatives of modern squid, drifted gracefully, their tentacles feeling the currents as they searched for prey. To look into the sea of the Permian was to look into a library of forms, each adapted, each experimenting with the possibilities of existence. Yet beneath this abundance, subtle changes were already at work. Shifts in ocean chemistry, pulses of volcanic gas, and variations in climate were beginning to tilt the balance. Though invisible to the creatures swimming through its depths, the stage was being set for collapse. It is humbling to realize how often great transformations begin in silence, unnoticed until their effects can no longer be denied. Perhaps this is true not only of Earth's past, but of our own present. At night, the desert cools swiftly, releasing its heat into the sky. The stars emerge, sharp and crystalline, unmarred by the haze of human lights. Across the constellations, a traveller of the Permian would see patterns much as we do, though without the stories we layer upon them. The sky has always been a canvas for imagination, whether for ancient reptiles or for us. What did it mean for creatures of the Permian to live beneath these same stars, never knowing the stories we would one day tell? Perhaps they needed no myths, only the rhythm of survival, the pull of instinct that bound them to their place in the world. In the distance, a volcano glows, its slopes lit by rivers of molten rock. The air trembles with heat and the faint rumble of the Earth's interior. Ash drifts slowly across the horizon, dimming the stars, settling into forests, seeping into rivers. This constant exchange between Earth's depths and its surface shaped the world in ways both subtle and catastrophic. Each eruption altered the chemistry of air and water, forcing life to adapt. We can almost imagine a Dicynodont lifting its head as fine ash settles on its back, unknowing that this dust would one day be pressed into stone, a message waiting for geologists millions of years later. Fossils are not only bones and shells, they are time itself crystallized. A ripple in sandstone tells of a river's course. A fern's delicate impression records the texture of a leaf long turned to dust. When we study these traces, we are not merely reconstructing biology, we are listening to echoes. The Permian is not gone. It lingers in stone, in the patterns of life that survived, in the genetic threads that link us to those distant ancestors. To think of this is to realise that we, too, are fossils in the making, part of the same unbroken chain of memory. As the night deepens, silence falls across the land. Only the faint sounds of insects and the whisper of wind disturb the stillness. The world seems at peace, though we know the storm of extinction waits at the edge of this story. But for now, in this suspended moment, life is vibrant, the earth steady, the sky infinite. And so we are left with a question. When we gaze into this ancient world, are we looking at creatures and landscapes that vanished? Or are we glimpsing something eternal, a rhythm that repeats through every age of Earth, including our own? The day begins with a shimmer of heat already rising from the ground, even as the sun has barely climbed above the horizon. In the vast interior of Pangaea, the land is parched, a desert that seems to stretch forever. Fine grains of red sand lift into the air with every gust of wind, and the dunes shift as though the land itself were breathing. There is little shade here, no ocean nearby to temper the climate, only an endless expanse where survival means adapting to extremes. Yet life endures, as it always has. Along the edges of rocky outcrops, hardy plants cling to cracks in the stone. Some are small seed ferns with leaves like delicate feathers, gathering what little moisture the night has left. Others are conifers, their roots twisting deep into hidden water tables. Imagine their branches stiff and resinous, catching the dry wind as if whispering secrets across the barren land. In their shade, insects crawl, finding refuge from the sun's first fire. These pockets of resilience remind us that, even in the harshest places, life finds a way to persist, shaping itself to the rhythm of its world. Further west, the land softens into valleys where rivers carve their way through stone. Here the desert gives way to floodplains, green with ferns and horsetails, buzzing with the sound of insects. Amphibians lounge in the shallow waters, their slick skin glistening, their eyes unblinking as they wait for movement. Some grow immense, their jaws wide enough to swallow smaller reptiles whole. Others are no larger than a hand, feeding on insects and hiding among reeds. These creatures belong to a lineage that once dominated the earth, bridging the ancient seas of the Devonian with the dry lands of later ages. They are the echoes of fish that first grew limbs, carrying water within their bodies like a memory of the ocean, and moving through the reeds come the synapsids, the mammal-like reptiles whose presence defines much of the Permian. One can imagine a Dimetrodon stepping carefully across a muddy bank, its great sail catching the sun, warming blood that cannot regulate itself, as ours does. The sail glows faintly orange in the morning light, thin as parchment, a living canvas of veins and bone. Nearby, a herd of Dicynodonts trudges past, their beaks scraping low plants from the earth. They travel in groups, finding safety in numbers, their tusks flashing as they root through soil. To us they may look strange, but to one another they are kin, bound by instinct and shared need. Predators wait at the edge of such gatherings. A Gorgonopsid watches from the shadows, its saber-teeth gleaming, its body low to the ground. With each breath, its chest expands, filling with air sharp with the scent of prey. It waits for weakness, for distraction, for the moment when one creature drifts too far from the safety of the herd. The silence before such an encounter is timeless, echoing the same quiet tension we might feel watching a lion on the plains today. Across eras, predator and prey are bound together, mirrors of one another's survival. The oceans of this time tell a parallel story. Panthalassa, the great world sea, stretches farther than any horizon, its waters shifting in deep blue swells. Far from shore, the surface appears calm, but beneath lies a world of astonishing variety. Fish glide in shimmering schools, scattering at the shadow of a shark. Ammonites drift like spirals of living shell, their tentacles moving with quiet grace. Reefs, built not by the same corals we know, but by other ancient organisms, rise like underwater cities filled with life in every crevice. It is here that silence takes on another character. Not emptiness, but fullness. The soft crackle of crustaceans, the hum of currents, the beating of fins. And yet even these waters carry hints of change. Layers of sediment record chemical shifts, whispers of oxygen levels dropping, of carbon dioxide rising. To the fish and Ammonites, life seems normal, the rhythms unchanged. But the ocean is already moving toward crisis. It reminds us of how fragile balance can be, how forces unseen by daily eyes can shape the fate of entire worlds. Perhaps the creatures of the sea felt something, a thinning in the water, a shift in taste. But perhaps they did not. Perhaps change always arrives quietly before it roars. As evening falls, the desert cools rapidly. Shadows stretch long across the dunes, and the first stars appear, cold and sharp above the darkening land. Imagine sitting by a pool of water, watching ripples catch the last light of day. Insects hum softly, their wings slowing as the air cools. Somewhere in the distance, a reptile calls, its cry rising and falling like a forgotten song. Above, the Milky Way bends across the sky, the same river of stars we know, though seen without the interference of our modern world. It glows so brightly that it casts faint shadows on the ground, illuminating creatures that have no names to give it, no myths to carve into stone. For a moment, everything is still, the sand cooling, the stars gathering, the forests breathing in the night air. To be present in such a world would be to feel both awe and unease, to sense the grandeur of life's endurance, but also the fragility of its hold. The Permian carries within it both abundance and warning. It tells us that life can flourish in extremes, but it also foreshadows the cost when balance tips too far. And so, as we drift deeper into this ancient landscape, we are left to wonder, do these deserts and forests teach us only of the past, or do they whisper of our own future? Does the silence of the Permian hold lessons we have yet to hear, waiting in the stone, waiting in the stars? The light of morning breaks across a river valley, golden mist rising where the water cools the air. The surface of the river glitters, disturbed by the flick of a reptilian tail or the ripple of a fish moving just below. Along the banks, horsetails grow in dense clusters, their hollow stems rising like reeds in a silent choir. Seed ferns unfurl their fronds, each leaf catching droplets of dew that sparkle like tiny jewels. The air here is damp and heavy, carrying the fragrance of resin, mud, and the faint metallic tang of minerals leached from upstream stone. This valley is alive with motion. Amphibians squat along the water's edge, their bodies dark and slick, throats pulsing as they draw in air. When startled, they lunge with sudden speed, jaws snapping shut on insects, too slow to escape. Some, broad-headed and armoured, push through the shallows like crocodiles, their eyes just above the surface, watching. Others are small and nimble, darting from rock to rock, their soft calls echoing faintly through the forest. They remind us that this lineage once ruled the earth, inheriting the mantle of survival from fish that first tested the edge of land. Their presence is both ancient and immediate, a living echo of oceans long receded. Above them, the trees tell another story. Conifers stand tall, their trunks straight and unyielding, needles rustling in the breeze. Fallen branches litter the ground, cracked open to reveal the tunnels of insects within. Beetles scurry along bark, feeding on resin that oozes slowly from wounds in the wood. Dragonflies hover, their wings a blur of motion, casting fleeting shadows across the soil. To stand here is to be immersed in a symphony of quiet labour, the endless cycle of feeding, growing, decaying that sustains all life. But it is the synapsids that dominate this scene, shaping the drama of the land. A herd of Dicynodonts, broad-bodied herbivores, makes its way across the floodplain. Their beaked mouths tear at low plants, their tusks gleam as they dig for hidden roots. They move slowly but deliberately, their heavy footsteps pressing deep impressions into the soft ground. Each step leaves a trace that, if preserved, could one day become a fossil, a silent witness waiting millions of years to be read. Among them, juveniles huddle close to larger adults, suggesting bonds of protection, a faint foreshadowing of the social behaviours we now recognise in mammals. Not far away, danger waits. A Gorgonopsid stalks the edge of the herd, its long saber teeth glinting in the dim light. It crouches low, muscles coiled, waiting for the moment when opportunity arises. The Dicynodonts are many, but a single misstep by one could mean its end. The predator's eyes fix on a smaller figure, lagging near the edge, its breath slow and measured, its body trembling with anticipation. The scene captures a truth older than memory, that predator and prey are bound together, their lives inseparable in the balance of survival. To imagine this moment is to see not just the drama of a hunt, but the flow of energy itself. Sunlight captured by plants becomes nourishment for herbivores. Flesh becomes sustenance for predators. Death feeds life, and life shapes death in an endless circle. The Permian, like every age, is a reminder that existence is not static, but a current flowing through every living being. We are part of that same current, carried along by forces older than we can name. Beyond the valley, the land stretches upward into mountains. Snow caps their highest peaks, glinting under the sun, while lower slopes are etched with rivers carrying meltwater to the plains. These mountains were born from the slow collision of tectonic plates, forces so immense and gradual that they seem almost timeless. To stand before them is to feel small, yet also to recognise that the same processes shaping them continue beneath our feet today. The earth is not fixed. It is a restless body, always shifting, always changing. If we look to the oceans, another rhythm emerges. The waters of Panthalassa are vast, their currents circulating heat around the globe. Within them, life continues to flourish. Fish with armoured scales, sharks with sleek bodies, Ammonites spiralling through the water. The reefs, though strange to us, are vibrant, their structures home to countless species. Yet chemical whispers move through the currents, changes in acidity and oxygen levels that will one day disrupt this balance. The sea is both sanctuary and threat, a mirror of abundance and fragility. Night descends once more, and with it comes a silence broken only by the croak of amphibians and the rustle of leaves in the wind. The stars stretch across the sky in patterns unchanged since that time, their light falling equally on deserts, mountains, rivers, and seas. Perhaps some creatures pause to look upward, their eyes catching faint glimmers, though they had no stories to give them. Or perhaps the stars were unnoticed, their beauty wasted on beings concerned only with survival, and yet the cosmos was there, patient and constant, just as it is for us. The Permian world, seen through imagination and evidence, feels both alien and familiar. Its deserts, forests and rivers resemble those we know, yet its creatures bear forms that no longer walk among us. To wander here is to witness the creativity of evolution, the ceaseless experiment of life finding shapes that fit its time. Each fossil we uncover is a reminder that the world has worn many faces, and that ours is only one among countless others. As you drift with this vision, picture the glimmer of starlight on a river, the hush of wind moving through conifers, the slow, deliberate steps of reptiles pressing into the earth. Let the rhythm of this ancient world settle around you like a soft cloak, and consider this: when we speak of the past, are we truly looking backward? Or are we gazing into a mirror that reflects our own place in time, fragile and fleeting, part of the same story still unfolding? The air is heavy with warmth as the afternoon deepens over Pangaea. The light is sharp, almost metallic, glancing off the sandstone cliffs that rise from the plain. Shadows stretch long across the ground, their edges softened by the haze of dust carried on dry winds. In this heat, the land seems suspended, as though the very air has slowed, thickened, become something to wade through, rather than simply breathe. To live here is to accept extremes, to bend to rhythms larger than the moment. Along the base of these cliffs, caves open like dark mouths, offering cool shelter from the glare. Inside, the air is damp, carrying the faint mineral scent of stone. Within such spaces, smaller creatures find refuge, insects clicking softly in the dark, lizards flattening themselves against rock walls, their bodies conserving every drop of moisture. Fossils tell us that burrowing behaviour was common during the Permian, a strategy not only for surviving heat, but for escaping predators. To hide beneath the earth was to step into another world, one of silence and shadows, where survival depended less on speed and more on patience. Step outside again, and the land stretches wide. Across the valley floor, tracks mark the passage of creatures, three-toed impressions pressed deep in mud, tail drags etched as long lines across sand. These are not random patterns, but records of journeys, paths to water, trails of herds, the sudden scatter of prey fleeing a predator. Today, paleontologists study such traces with care, reconstructing behaviour from the arrangement of footprints. A trackway is more than evidence of movement. It is a frozen moment of life, an echo of decisions made millions of years ago. In the forests beyond, light filters down through the conifers, striping the ground in pale gold. The air is alive with sound, insects buzzing, amphibians croaking, the faint hiss of wind through resinous needles. A Dimetrodon moves slowly between shadows, its great sail glowing faintly as sunlight touches it through the branches. It pauses, lowering its head to the ground, nostrils flaring at scents left behind by prey. For a moment, its stillness feels eternal, a sculpture of bone and sinew. Then it moves again, silent and deliberate, the rhythm of predator etched in every muscle. Nearby, the Dicynodont herd continues its slow progress. They are not graceful creatures, but there is a quiet dignity in their persistence. Their bodies, rounded and heavy, are suited for endurance rather than speed. They graze in steady rhythm, tearing at ferns, cropping horsetails, digging roots from the soil. The tusks that jut from their beaks gleam as they churn the earth, shaping the land even as they feed. It is easy to overlook them, to see them only as background to the more dramatic predators. Yet it is they who anchor the ecosystem, transforming plants into energy, sustaining the chain of life. Without such creatures, the rhythm would falter. The balance between hunter and hunted is delicate, but it has always been so. Life thrives in cycles of tension, in the interplay of vulnerability and strength. To watch these interactions is to glimpse something universal, a truth that stretches across ages. We may see it today in the savannas of Africa, in the forests of Asia, in the oceans of the Pacific. The names of the species change, but the pattern endures. Predator waiting, prey grazing, life balancing on the edge of uncertainty. Far beyond this valley, the sea continues its restless breathing. Waves crash against rocky shores, their foam glittering in sunlight. In deeper waters, sharks circle with ancient patience, their eyes reflecting nothing but hunger. Ammonites drift in spiral shells, their tentacles curling through the current. Schools of fish shimmer as they move together, one body made of thousands. The reef, strange to modern eyes, is alive with colour and motion, every crevice occupied by life. To peer into such waters would be to enter another dimension, where silence is not empty, but filled with hidden vibrations, the hum of existence unfolding. Yet already, subtle changes ripple through these oceans. Layers of stone record shifts in chemistry, oxygen thinning, carbon rising. These signals are invisible to the creatures swimming in their world, but they mark the slow gathering of crisis. It is a reminder that catastrophe rarely arrives without warning. It builds in silence, in forces too large for any single creature to sense. Only in hindsight do we recognize the signs, etched into rock, waiting for us to read. As evening draws near, the desert begins to cool. The heat releases from the sand in soft waves, rising like a ghost of the day. The sky deepens from gold to violet, stars pricking through the veil of twilight. The Milky Way arches overhead, a river of light stretching across the darkness. Perhaps no creature in the Permian paused to wonder at it, to give it meaning. Yet the stars remained, watching silently as life unfolded below. A lone reptile climbs a ridge, its body silhouetted against the fading light. It pauses at the crest, its outline sharp against the glowing sky. For a moment, it seems to stand not only upon the ridge of stone, but upon the ridge of time itself, poised between what has been and what is yet to come. The stillness is complete, broken only by the faint whisper of wind. To imagine this scene is to feel both closeness and distance. The creatures of the Permian are long gone, yet their presence lingers in the bones we unearth, in the genes that echo through us. We are not separate from them but continuous, threads in the same vast tapestry. Their struggles shape the path that led, eventually, to us. In that sense, the Permian is not simply a chapter of history, it is part of our own story, written in stone and silence. And so we ask, when we look back into such deep time, are we only studying what was, or are we listening for what still is? Do the deserts and forests of the Permian whisper to us across the ages, reminding us of the fragility of balance, the endurance of life, and the ceaseless rhythm of change? The morning sun lingers low, casting long beams of light across a landscape mottled with shadow and brilliance. In the still air, dust drifts upward in shimmering columns, caught like golden threads in the rays of dawn. Here at the edge of a Permian floodplain, the earth feels both ancient and immediate, every detail carrying the weight of deep time. The soil underfoot is dark and damp, rich with the memory of water that overflowed its banks in recent rains. The smell is sharp, muddy, fertile, tinged with the fragrance of resin from conifers that tower along the margins of the plain. Life gathers wherever water pools. Amphibians, descendants of fish that first climbed onto land, stir in the shallows. Some are long-bodied, their limbs splayed, tails swaying behind them as they creep across wet ground. Others are immense, their heads broad and flat, waiting beneath the surface like patient shadows. A quick flick of their jaws captures insects that skate across the water's skin. Their calls reverberate softly, a chorus rising with the mist, carrying across the valley like a low chant. These voices, though simple, remind us that communication is as old as life itself, a thread weaving together countless generations. Along the banks, plants form dense thickets. Horsetails rise in tight clusters, their hollow stems banded like living bamboo. Seed ferns spread their fronds into the air, unfurling with delicate grace, each leaf gathering sunlight and channeling energy into growth. The conifers stand higher still, their resin dripping slowly from wounds in their bark, their trunks etched with the trails of insects. The scent of pine drifts into the air, familiar and comforting, bridging a connection across millions of years. It is a reminder that the flora of the Permian, though strange in form, also laid the groundwork for the forests we know today. Between these plants, synapsids wander. Their presence is unmistakable, heavy-bodied herbivores with beaked mouths, tusks gleaming, eyes scanning for danger. Dicynodonts move in loose herds, each step pressing deep into the damp soil. They feed steadily, tearing low vegetation and rooting at the ground, their rhythm patient and unhurried. Among them, juveniles press close to larger adults, mimicking their movements, learning through proximity. Such herding behaviour suggests bonds of care, the beginnings of something we might one day recognise as social instinct. In their slow persistence lies the quiet power of continuity, of survival through shared vigilance. But where there is prey, there are predators. A Gorgonopsid moves silently at the edge of the floodplain, its saber-like teeth gleaming as the sun catches its jaw. Its body is sleek, its gait cautious but confident, every movement honed by instinct. Its eyes fix on the herd, calculating. It does not need to attack now. Patience is its ally. It waits for separation, for weakness, for the moment when the rhythm falters. Such tension is timeless, the silence of a hunter watching prey, the prey sensing danger it cannot yet see. Across ages this scene repeats, unchanged in essence, though the players shift with evolution. The air grows hotter as the sun climbs. Insects buzz, their wings vibrating with intensity. Dragonflies dart above the floodplain, their wings shimmering like stained glass. Beetles scuttle over damp earth, while centipedes move swiftly through the undergrowth. This miniature world is as intricate as the larger one, each creature feeding, competing, adapting. The Permian reminds us that ecosystems are layered, from the largest predators to the smallest scavengers, each bound in the same web of necessity. Far beyond this valley, deserts stretch into silence. The heart of Pangaea is arid, its sands shifting endlessly under the pull of the wind. Here, survival is harder, but not impossible. Small reptiles leave delicate trails in the dunes, their footprints erased almost as soon as they're made. Hardy plants send roots deep into hidden moisture, their leaves tough and narrow. In such extremes, life hones itself into resilience, shaping strategies that echo through time. We too carry echoes of this resilience, for the story of survival in harsh places belongs to all life. At the same time, the oceans breathe their own rhythms. Panthalassa, the great world sea, laps against distant coasts. Its waves seem eternal, but within them change gathers. Sediments record shifts in chemistry, oxygen dwindling in some regions, carbon rising. These invisible alterations will one day cascade into catastrophe. But here, in this moment, the ocean teems with life. Sharks patrol, their forms elegant and ancient. Ammonites drift in slow spirals, their shells glinting faintly. Fish flash in schools, scattering at the approach of predators. The reefs hum with unseen motion, each niche occupied, each crevice alive. It is a world in delicate balance, unaware of its approaching collapse. Night returns with gentle grace. The floodplain cools, mist rising once more from the river's surface. Stars reveal themselves, piercing the darkness in endless constellations. The Milky Way arches above, like a silver bridge, the same river of light we see today. Perhaps no creature looked upward to wonder, yet the stars bore witness all the same. They shine on desert and ocean, on predator and prey, indifferent to the drama below. Their constancy is both comfort and reminder. Life changes, earth shifts, but the sky endures. And so we linger in this scene, the hush of water flowing, the whisper of wind in conifer branches, the steady crunch of herbivores feeding in the night. To drift here in imagination is to step outside of time, to feel the rhythm of an earth both alien and familiar. The Permian asks us to listen, not only to its fossils and its stones, but to the silence between them. And in that silence, we are left with a question. When we trace the echoes of this distant world, are we only reconstructing its past, or are we also hearing faint reflections of our own future? The afternoon sky above Pangaea is a pale, washed-out blue, its brightness softened by the fine dust that drifts perpetually from the deserts at the continent's heart. Sunlight glitters faintly across sandstone ridges, turning their faces into glowing walls of red and gold. The land feels vast, almost endless, as though the earth itself has expanded. Yet within this immensity, life continues in small, intricate rhythms, each creature tracing its own circle of survival across the immovable landscape. On a rocky slope, a Dimetrodon basks motionless, its long sail spread like a canvas to the sun. The thin skin stretched over bone veins glows with warmth, pulsing faintly as blood circulates. It appears still, almost carved from stone, but within, life is stirring, temperature rising, muscles waking. Perhaps this reptile senses the passing of time differently than we do, moments drawn out by long pauses, stillness as much a part of living as movement. The air carries the sharp scent of sun-warmed resin, the dry taste of dust and the faint sound of insects humming, as though the land itself breathes slowly through them. Below, in the shade of a grove of seed ferns, a cluster of Dicynodonts grazes. Their squat bodies move steadily, beaks snapping through leaves, tusks flashing as they churn through roots. They seem unhurried, their eyes calm, yet their movements shape the land itself. Each patch of vegetation cleared, each root unearthed, alters the soil. Their feeding habits sculpt the ecosystem in quiet ways, preparing space for new growth. In their persistence lies a kind of quiet power, the influence of many small actions accumulating over time. At the edge of this grove, a predator watches. The Gorgonopsid crouches low, its head framed by long saber-like teeth, its gaze unwavering. Its body is lean, built for bursts of power, and its breathing is shallow, measured. The silence between it and the herd is thick, a tension that feels almost visible, yet it does not strike. It waits, as though aware that time favours patience. A young Dicynodont lingers slightly, apart from the group, distracted by a fallen branch. The predator's muscles coil, ready. But even here, the outcome is uncertain. The herd may rally, the prey may escape. Life's drama unfolds not as certainty, but as possibility. Such scenes remind us that existence in the Permian was not uniform. For every predator crouched in shadows, there were herbivores gathering food, amphibians slipping through pools, insects buzzing through the air. Each moment held thousands of separate stories, threads weaving into the larger fabric of life. We glimpse only fragments, but through fossils and imagination, we attempt to hear the chorus entire. Beyond the land, the oceans stretch in shimmering expanse. Panthalassa, the single great sea, carries currents that sweep warmth around the globe. Its waves break against the coasts of Pangaea with relentless rhythm, smoothing stones, carving cliffs, pulling life into its depths. In shallow waters, Ammonites drift like floating lanterns. their spiral shells gleaming as sunlight filters down. Fish move in glittering schools, scattering in unison when shadows pass above. Sharks circle with measured grace, their bodies unchanged in form for millions of years, because their design is already close to perfect. Life in the ocean moves with fluidity, as though time flows differently beneath the waves. Yet within this abundance, something stirs. Chemical traces recorded in sediments tell us oxygen levels were beginning to decline in some seas. Invisible to the Ammonites and fish, the water's breath was slowly thinning. Perhaps small shifts in current, subtle changes in taste, warned of what was to come. Or perhaps it went unnoticed, the creatures swimming on, unaware of the silent storm gathering beneath their world. It is a sobering thought that catastrophe often begins not with violence, but with a whisper too soft to hear. As the day fades, the land cools, and long shadows stretch across the valleys. The desert releases its heat, the air carrying the scent of stone cooling after hours of sun. Amphibians stir once more, emerging from burrows and shallows to hunt in the twilight. Insects rise in greater numbers, their wings humming in swarms that shimmer faintly in the dim light. The chorus of life shifts as evening deepens, one set of voices giving way to another, each woven into the larger rhythm of earth. The sky darkens into violet, then deep blue, stars piercing through the veil. The Milky Way arches overhead, a river of brilliance across the night. To stand beneath it here, without human light to soften its glow, is to see the cosmos in its full intensity. Every star, every cluster, shines unbroken, a reminder that the same sky has always watched over Earth, indifferent to the forms that walked below. The creatures of the Permian may not have noticed, but the stars kept their vigil. In the stillness of night, the land feels eternal. Yet we know, from our vantage point, that this world is precarious, balanced on the edge of immense change. The great dying lies in the future, a shadow approaching slowly but surely. To the creatures of this time, life seems steady, abundant, assured, but history teaches otherwise. The fragility of balance, the inevitability of change, these are truths written not only in fossils, but in the silence between them. And so, as we drift through this vision, we are left to wonder, do we see the Permian as a world lost forever, or as a mirror reflecting the delicate balance upon which we too depend? When we listen to its echoes, are we hearing only the past or the faint resonance of our own present, folded into the same eternal rhythm? The morning begins with a pale haze drifting low across the land. Moisture rises where the river bends, cloaking the valley in soft mist. Shapes move within it, indistinct at first, shadows of trees, outlines of creatures, the faint shimmer of wings. As the sun climbs, the fog thins, revealing a Permian landscape, both familiar and strange. Conifers stretch tall, their branches sharp against the light. Seed ferns spread in wide fronds, creating a canopy of green and shadow. The earth is dark, rich with nutrients, softened by recent floods. The smell is earthy, resinous, filled with the quiet promise of life renewing itself. Beneath the trees, small reptiles scurry. Their scales gleam faintly as they dart between roots, their movements quick and purposeful. These creatures are ancestors of futures we know, early experiments in form, testing survival strategies in a world that demands adaptability. Some carry long tails for balance, others stubby limbs that cling to bark. Their diversity speaks to evolution's endless creativity, shaping forms to fit niches we may never fully imagine. Larger figures move more slowly. Dicynodonts graze in loose gatherings, their tusks flashing as they dig at roots. Their heavy bodies sway with each step, pressing deep impressions into soft ground. In their eyes there is no hint of the future. They cannot know. Only the steady rhythm of feeding, resting, moving. Around them, insects rise in clouds, buzzing with a constant hum. Dragonflies hover near the surface of a pond, their wings catching droplets of light. The forest vibrates with subtle motion, each layer alive with activity. Not far away, a predator waits. A Gorgonopsid crouches beneath a fallen trunk, its body low, its gaze steady. Muscles ripple beneath its skin as it breathes, each inhalation carrying the scent of prey on the wind. Its teeth, long and curved, glisten faintly in the light. This creature is among the apex predators of its age, built for speed and power, designed to strike with lethal precision. Yet even it depends upon the rhythm of the herd, the movements of its prey. Its survival is entwined with theirs, bound in the same fragile balance. The forest itself is not silent. The wind moves through resinous branches with a faint hiss, a sound like distant whispers. Resin oozes slowly from conifer trunks, sticky and fragrant, capturing insects that wander too close. Over millions of years, this resin will harden into amber, preserving tiny lives in exquisite detail, messages from the Permian carried across deep time. To imagine holding such amber in our hand today is to realize how even the smallest of lives can endure, their stories sealed in golden stillness. Beyond the forest, deserts stretch, vast and silent. Their dunes ripple in endless patterns, shaped by winds that howl across the open land. The sand glows red in the sunlight, reflecting the heat back into the air. Few creatures endure here, but those that do are masters of resilience. Small reptiles burrow beneath the surface, escaping the burning day to emerge under the cool of night. Sparse plants send roots deep into hidden reservoirs, surviving where life seems impossible. These deserts remind us that endurance is not always abundance. Sometimes it is simply persistence, waiting out the harshest of hours. Farther still, the sea rises to meet the land. Panthalassa stretches into infinity, its waves breaking against rocky cliffs. The air tastes of salt, carrying the sound of endless motion. In shallow waters life thrives, reefs filled with colour and movement, fish darting through crevices, Ammonites drifting in elegant spirals. Sharks patrol the deeper currents, their shadows passing silently across the sea floor. To enter this ocean would be to enter another world, one where silence is dense with unseen vibrations, where survival depends on speed, stealth, or the shelter of stone. And yet, within this abundance, subtle warnings gather. Sediments preserve chemical traces of oxygen thinning, waters slowly shifting toward imbalance. The creatures swimming here do not sense the scale of what is coming. Their world feels eternal, yet we know it teeters on the brink of collapse. This knowledge is both humbling and haunting, to imagine life flourishing, unaware that its chapter is nearing its close. As night falls, the land cools, releasing the heat of day into the sky. Stars emerge in brilliant clarity, unbroken by human light. The Milky Way glows so vividly, it seems to drip across the heavens, a river of silver and shadow. Constellations unknown to Permian eyes hang above deserts, and forests alike, silent witnesses to the unfolding drama below. Perhaps no creature paused to wonder, yet the stars remained constant, patient observers of change. In the hush of night, creatures stir differently. Insects hum in steady rhythm. Amphibians croak in low voices from the edges of pools. The wind softens, carrying the cool scent of stone and resin. It is a moment of stillness, as though the earth itself breathes slowly, preparing for what lies ahead. And so we listen, not only to the sounds of life, but to the silence surrounding them. We sense the fragility of this world, poised between flourishing and collapse. The Permian speaks to us not only of what has passed, but of what may yet be, a reminder that balance is delicate and change inevitable. And we are left to ask, when we look upon the fossils and stones of this age, do we see only what was lost, or do we also glimpse the unbroken thread of life that still carries forward within us? The sun leans westward, turning the light to amber. Across Pangaea, the air grows heavy with heat, and the land shimmers under its weight. The stones radiate warmth, releasing it back into the sky in waves that bend the horizon. In this shimmering distance, shapes blur, trees dissolve into haze, hills ripple like liquid, and creatures become silhouettes moving against the glare. The Permian world feels suspended, its surface alive with both stillness and quiet tension. On a rocky plateau, a Dimetrodon lies sprawled across a ledge, its sail stretched wide, glowing faintly orange as blood warms beneath the sun. For hours it may remain in this pose, conserving energy in a world where survival is measured in efficiency. Its jaws open slowly, revealing rows of teeth, then close again in silence. There is no need for haste, the day is long, and time belongs to those who know how to wait. This patience is not laziness but strategy, honed by countless generations living in climates that punish waste. Below, near a ribbon of water cutting through the plain, a herd of Dicynodonts gathers. Their broad bodies crowd together, tusks flashing as they root at vegetation. The ground beneath them is churned into mud, their heavy steps pressing deep impressions that will harden into stone, perhaps to be read one day as fossils. Among them, smaller juveniles stay close to the protection of larger adults, their beaked mouths snapping at low ferns. The herd is a living organism in itself, many bodies moving as one, bound by instinct, survival, and the subtle thread of kinship. The air vibrates with insect wings. Dragonflies dart and hover above the water's surface, their wings catching sunlight in flashes of green and gold. Beetles crawl along branches, their shells gleaming, while centipedes coil beneath fallen logs. Ants march in lines, carrying fragments larger than themselves. This miniature world mirrors the larger one. Constant movement, constant seeking, each creature shaping its environment in ways both small and profound. From the shadows, a predator approaches. A Gorgonopsid steps silently through the undergrowth, its body taut, its teeth gleaming in the fading light. It does not rush, it flows, every step measured, its muscles coiled with restrained power. Its gaze fixes on the herd, searching for weakness. A juvenile strays a few paces too far, distracted by a patch of ferns. The predator waits, the moment stretching long, the silence deepening. Will it strike, or will the herd close ranks? The opportunity lost. Such questions remain suspended in time, unresolved yet eternal. Predator and prey, bound together, performing a dance as old as life itself. Far from the plains, deserts stretch vast and silent. Dunes rise and fall like frozen waves, sculpted by winds that never rest. Their surfaces gleam red in the low light, reflecting fire back into the sky. In the heart of these deserts, life exists at the margins, small reptiles burrowing beneath the sand, plants clinging to rare moisture. The silence here is immense, broken only by the hiss of shifting grains. Yet even this silence holds a kind of richness, the quiet persistence of forms that endure by withdrawing, by waiting, by taking only what they must. Beyond the deserts, the ocean breathes in long, slow waves. Panthalassa, the great encircling sea, stretches unbroken to the horizon. Its surface glitters under the lowering sun, but beneath it lies another world entirely. Sharks patrol with ancient grace, their silhouettes slipping through shafts of light. Ammonites drift in spirals, their shells gleaming faintly as they turn. Fish flash in sudden bursts, scattering like sparks across the dark. Reefs hum with unseen activity, creatures darting into crevices, tentacles swaying with the current. To witness this underwater world would be to see abundance without measure, each form adapted, each movement shaped by necessity. But already, the sea carries whispers of change. Sediments record chemical shifts, oxygen thinning, acidity rising. These warnings are silent, unnoticed by the creatures that swim through them. Their world seems steady, unchanging. Yet in deep time, balance tilts slowly, and collapse gathers like a storm beyond the horizon. It is a reminder that catastrophe often hides in ordinary days, revealed only when its weight finally breaks the rhythm of life. As evening falls, the light softens, shadows grow long, stretching across plains and forests, deserts and coasts. The sky shifts to violet, then indigo, stars beginning to pierce the veil. The Milky Way brightens, its silver band stretching unbroken across the heavens. No creature in the Permian may have paused to gaze upward in wonder, yet the stars shone all the same, patient witnesses to every age of earth. Their light, constant and indifferent, reminds us that life is fleeting, but the cosmos endures. The land cools, releasing the breath of day into the night. Amphibians stir in the darkness, their calls echoing across pools. Insects hum in softer tones, their wings slower in the cooler air. Reptiles move more cautiously, their scales glinting faintly in starlight. The forest becomes a place of shadow and sound, where every rustle hints at hidden presence. Silence alternates with sudden bursts of noise, a rhythm as old as life itself. And in this stillness, the earth seems eternal. Yet we know the truth. This world, rich and vibrant, stands on the edge of immense change. The Permian will end in collapse, with volcanic fury and climate upheaval so severe that most life will vanish. But here, in this moment, none of that is known. Life continues, unaware, as it always has, as perhaps it always will. And so we ask, when we peer back into this distant age, are we seeing only a vanished world? Or are we seeing ourselves reflected, creatures living as though the present were permanent, never sensing how fragile balance truly is? The day opens with a pale sun rising above the eastern edge of Pangaea. Its light spreads slowly across the land, gilding cliffs and forests in gold. The air is cool at first, crisp with the faint scent of dew clinging to leaves, but the promise of heat lies close behind. In this fragile hour, the world feels hushed, as though holding its breath between darkness and light. Mist curls above rivers, drifting lazily until the sun dissolves it into brightness. By the banks of a wide floodplain, amphibians stir. Their slick bodies glisten in the morning glow, eyes unblinking as they rest half submerged in shallows. One moves suddenly, jaws snapping around an insect that has drifted too near. Another pushes itself forward, leaving ripples spreading across the still surface. These creatures are survivors of ancient oceans, their bodies still carrying the memory of water within them. Every breath they take, every step they crawl, speaks of transition between water and land, between what was and what is becoming. Nearby, synapsids wander in search of food. A Dimetrodon ambles slowly down a slope, its sail glowing faintly as it catches the first warmth of day. The sail, thin and delicate, is both an adaptation and a mystery, perhaps a tool for regulating heat, perhaps a display for communication. Its owner moves deliberately, conserving energy, nostrils flaring as it scents the air. Predators of its kind do not chase without certainty. They wait, they choose, they strike when the outcome leans toward success. Patience, once more, proves to be the greatest weapon. Further along the plain, a herd of Dicynodonts gathers. Their bodies sway in rhythm as they graze, tusks flashing in the sun as they churn the soil. The ground bears the marks of their presence: churned mud, stripped vegetation, shallow pits dug for roots. In their wake, insects flock to the exposed earth, scavengers thriving on what others leave behind. The herd does not notice, or perhaps does not care. Their attention is on feeding, on moving, on staying together. Safety lies in numbers, in the quiet presence of companions who share the same path. Overhead, the sky hums with insect wings. Dragonflies, immense by our standards, dart in sudden bursts, their transparent wings flashing as they shift direction with impossible precision. Smaller insects form swarms, their collective buzzing, rising and falling, like a low chant. Beetles crawl over bark, their shells shining in the light, while ants march in endless lines, carrying fragments of leaves back to their colonies. This miniature world, too, is ancient, its strategies refined across millions of years. Insects dominated the Permian as they do today, shaping the ecosystem in ways both visible and unseen. Beyond the floodplain, the desert stretches wide. Heat radiates off its sands, shimmering in waves that distort the horizon. Yet even here, life persists. Reptiles burrow deep, emerging only when the air cools. Sparse plants dig roots into hidden aquifers, their leaves narrow and tough. In the silence of the desert, survival is written not in abundance but in endurance. Each life form carries within it the wisdom of restraint, of taking only what is needed, of waiting through the long hours of heat for the moment when living becomes possible again. Farther still, the ocean glimmers. Panthalassa spreads unbroken around the supercontinent, its waves carrying the breath of the planet itself. In shallow reefs, life flourishes. Ammonites drift gracefully, their shells spiraling outward in perfect symmetry. Fish flash in schools, scattering when predators approach. Sharks, sleek and ancient, patrol with unhurried authority, their forms already refined to near perfection. The reef is alive with motion, with feeding, with sheltering, with breeding. Yet even here beneath the surface, balance is delicate. Sediments record whispers of change, oxygen thinning, waters warming, chemistry shifting. Life continues unaware, but history tells us these quiet warnings grow louder with time. As the sun reaches its height, the land shimmers under its fire. The forest seems to hold its breath, leaves drooping in the heat, creatures withdrawing into shade. The chorus of insects softens, replaced by the slow creak of branches in the hot wind. The Dimetrodon shifts position on its rocky ledge, its sail adjusting to capture the changing angle of light. The Dicynodont herd moves toward water, their bodies stirring dust with each step. The world does not pause, but it slows, conserving energy until evening brings relief. When twilight comes, the change is sudden. Shadows lengthen, the air cools, and movement returns. Amphibians stir again, their calls rising in low resonant voices. Insects hum more boldly, their wings filling the dusk with sound. Predators slip into motion, their silhouettes gliding between trees, their eyes catching the fading light. The land breathes deeply once more, exhaling the heat of day into the cool of night. The stars emerge in their brilliance, filling the sky with unbroken light. The Milky Way shines so clearly it seems to arc like a silver bridge across the heavens. Comets and meteors, unseen by Permian eyes, occasionally streak across the dark. The cosmos feels close here, as though leaning down to watch the world below. Its constancy contrasts with the fragility of life, reminding us that while stars endure for billions of years, entire ages of Earth rise and fall in silence beneath them. In this moment of stillness, we linger on a thought. The creatures of the Permian did not know they stood on the edge of history's greatest extinction. Their world, rich and vibrant, felt eternal. They lived as though tomorrow would mirror today, and perhaps in this lies the lesson we are meant to hear. Not only that life is fragile, but that its balance can shift without warning. And so, as the night deepens, the earth whispers its ancient truth. That change is constant, that survival is never guaranteed, that every age, no matter how abundant, carries within it the seed of transformation. And we are left to wonder, when we look back at this distant time, are we only studying the past, or are we hearing an echo of our own uncertain future? The dawn comes slowly across Pangaea, the first light spreading across mountains and plains, touching deserts and forests alike. The air is cool, filled with the earthy fragrance of soil still damp from the night, resin drifting from conifer groves, and the faint mineral tang of stone. In this moment, before the sun gains strength, the world feels calm, as though resting between breaths. Mist lingers in valleys, curling around tree trunks, dissolving into pale gold as the sky brightens. On the forest floor, insects stir first. Beetles crawl from beneath bark, their shells glistening with dew. Ants emerge from hidden tunnels, carrying fragments of leaves into long, steady lines. Dragonflies hover above pools, their wings beating so fast they seem to hum. This miniature world awakens before the larger creatures move, a quiet foundation of life. Insects may be small, but in their vast numbers and persistence, they shape the balance of entire ecosystems. Even here in the Permian, their story is one of silent dominance. Soon, amphibians emerge. Their bodies glisten in the morning light, slick and cool from the water. They linger on rocks, warming themselves, throats pulsing gently. Some stretch long limbs, lifting their heads as though listening to the forest around them. These creatures, neither fully bound to water nor entirely free of it, carry in their bodies the memory of oceans past. They are reminders of thresholds, moments when life balanced between one realm and another, daring to step forward. Further inland, synapsids begin their movements. A Dimetrodon lifts its head, sail glowing faintly as sunlight touches it. The sail, delicate yet commanding, catches the eye, its thin surface laced with veins. Was it a tool for warmth, a canvas for display, or both? Science offers possibilities, but certainty drifts beyond reach. The creature itself moves deliberately, conserving energy, its breath visible in the cool air. Its presence speaks of patience, of survival honed not through speed but through waiting for the right moment. Elsewhere, a herd of Dicynodonts moves in slow rhythm. Their heavy bodies press into the soil, tusks gleaming as they root for vegetation. They work as one, their movement steady, their focus unbroken. Youngsters shuffle close to larger adults, eyes wide, learning through imitation. In this quiet togetherness lies strength, not of speed or weaponry, but of community. Fossil evidence suggests such creatures moved in groups, perhaps caring for their young, perhaps seeking safety in numbers. In their plodding persistence, we glimpse an early echo of the social bonds that will one day define mammals. But predators do not rest. A Gorgonopsid lurks at the forest's edge, its lean body tensed, saber teeth gleaming faintly in shadow. Its gaze fixes on the herd, searching for weakness, calculating opportunity. The silence is deep, broken only by the faint hiss of wind in conifer needles. It waits, patient, its muscles coiled with restrained power. Such predators embody not only danger but balance, shaping prey populations, testing resilience. The dance between hunter and hunted is as old as life, and it continues here, unbroken. Beyond the forests, deserts stretch in silence, dunes ripple in the light, shaped by winds that whisper across endless horizons. The sand glows red and gold, shifting endlessly, erasing the tracks of creatures that cross it. Yet life persists even here. Small reptiles burrow beneath the surface, hiding from the heat. Plants root deeply, surviving on hidden reserves. Their strategies are simple but effective, honed by necessity. The desert teaches endurance, not abundance but the quiet art of survival through restraint. Farther still, the ocean breathes against the coast. Panthalassa stretches into infinity, waves breaking against cliffs, spray carried on the wind. Beneath the surface, life flourishes. Ammonites drift, their spirals catching light as they turn. Sharks glide silently, shadows moving through blue depths. Fish scatter in schools, flashing like liquid silver. Reefs, strange to our eyes, host countless forms, each tucked into crevices, each shaping the whole. To look into these waters would be to see abundance woven tightly together, every life entwined in the current of survival. And yet sediments whisper of imbalance. Oxygen wanes in certain depths, acidity shifts, chemistry changes. The creatures swimming here feel none of it, at least not in ways we can know, but history shows us that such changes gather, slow at first, then sudden. Catastrophe often builds in silence, waiting for its moment to break through. The ocean, calm on the surface, carries the seeds of collapse within. As evening comes, the desert cools, its sands releasing heat into the air. The sky deepens, stars emerging sharp and brilliant. The Milky Way arches above, glowing so brightly it casts faint shadows on the ground. No creature here names the stars. No myths are drawn in their patterns. Yet they shine, constant and indifferent, witnesses to every age. Their light reminds us of scale, of the vastness in which Earth's dramas unfold, of the brevity of even the longest ages. In the quiet of night, amphibians croak softly from pools. Insects hum in low tones. Reptiles move carefully through shadow. The forest breathes in darkness, its rhythm slower, more cautious. To sit here, to listen, would be to hear not silence but a subtle symphony of life, small, persistent, unbroken. And so we linger with this vision, aware of what is coming but holding still within what is. The Permian is alive, its world vibrant, its creatures thriving. Yet its story arcs toward collapse, a lesson written in stone. Do we see only what was lost, or do we glimpse ourselves, living too as though balance were permanent, as though tomorrow could not change? The light of afternoon lies heavy across Pangaea. Heat shimmers above the plains, bending the horizon into wavering shapes, as though the world itself is uncertain. The land breathes with quiet stillness, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the call of a distant creature. To stand here is to feel both the immensity of space and the intimacy of detail. Every grain of sand, every flicker of motion, every breath of wind part of the same endless story. Along the banks of a winding river, life gathers. The water reflects the sky in broken ripples, glittering as fish move just beneath the surface. Amphibians crouch at the edge, their bodies slick, their eyes unblinking as they wait for insects to come close. A sudden flick of motion, a snap of jaws, and the water breaks. Ripples widen, then settle once more. These small dramas play out endlessly, unnoticed yet essential, part of the rhythm that binds every age. Above them, forests rise, their conifers tall and resinous, their branches whispering faintly in the hot wind. Needles fall in soft showers, carpeting the ground in fragrant litter. Beetles burrow through it, their shells catching glimmers of light, while ants weave hidden cities beneath. Seed ferns spread their fronds, their leaves wide and delicate, reaching for sunlight. The air is heavy with scent, pine and resin, damp earth, the faint sweetness of decay. To breathe it in is to know the forest not as backdrop, but as presence. Through these trees, synapsids wander. A Dimetrodon pauses in shadow, its sail casting strange shapes across the ground. It lowers its head, nostrils flaring, tongue flicking across sharp teeth. Nearby, Dicynodonts graze, their tusks gleaming as they churn soil for roots. Their bodies sway with steady rhythm, their movements unhurried, their presence shaping the land. To watch them is to see patience embodied, persistence written in flesh. They do not rush, for survival is not a sprint but a steady march through time. But danger lurks. A Gorgonopsid waits at the tree line, its lean body coiled, its saber teeth gleaming faintly. It does not move, not yet. Its eyes follow the herd, measuring distances, searching for weakness. A young Dicynodont strays near the edge, distracted. The silence deepens, the moment stretches. Will the predator strike, or will the herd close ranks, safety found in unity? The answer remains unwritten, suspended in the tension between hunger and survival. Beyond the forest, deserts stretch vast and silent. The dunes glow red under the sun, their surfaces shifting endlessly under the wind. Life here is scarce but resilient, small reptiles burrowing deep, plants surviving with roots sunk far into hidden moisture. The silence is immense, broken only by the hiss of sand carried on air. Yet within that silence lies endurance, proof that even in extremes life finds a way to persist. The desert teaches patience, the wisdom of waiting for the right moment, the strength of conserving what is precious. And then the sea, Panthalassa, spreads into infinity, its surface shimmering with late light. Waves crash against rocky cliffs, spray carried into the air, salt sharp on the tongue. Beneath, another world flourishes. Sharks glide with timeless grace, their shadows cutting across the depths. Ammonites drift, their spirals elegant, their tentacles searching. Fish flash in schools, scattering like sparks when predators near. Reefs hum with hidden life, every crevice occupied, every niche filled. To peer into these waters is to glimpse abundance beyond measure. But within this abundance, warning whispers. Sediments carry chemical traces, oxygen thinning, waters shifting, the breath of the ocean faltering. To the creatures swimming here, life feels eternal. Yet history shows us otherwise. Balance tilts slowly, collapse builds quietly. The sea holds within it the seeds of change, patient and unseen, waiting for the moment when silence will break into transformation. As evening descends, the light softens, shadows lengthen across plains and forests, deserts and coasts. The air cools, carrying the fragrance of resin, the taste of dust, the salt of the sea. Amphibians stir with renewed energy, their croaks echoing across water. Insects rise in greater numbers, their wings shimmering in the dimming light. Predators move more freely, their eyes catching the last glow of sun. The land shifts its rhythm, as though waking again just as the day fades. The stars return, brilliant and sharp. The Milky Way glows across the sky, a silver river arching overhead. Meteors streak occasionally, vanishing almost before they're seen. The creatures of the Permian do not notice, yet the stars remain witnesses, patient and constant. Their light reminds us of scale, billions of years written in fire, while Earth itself shifts through ages like chapters in a book. To linger here in imagination is to feel both awe and humility. The Permian world, alive and abundant, feels steady, yet we know it is fragile, its story bending toward collapse. The great dying waits ahead, unseen by those who live here, but inevitable. Perhaps that is the deepest truth this age carries, that change does not arrive with warning drums, but in silence, gathering slowly until its weight tips the balance. And so we are left with a question. When we look into the deep past, are we only reading the story of what was lost? Or are we glimpsing the truth of our own age? That balance is fragile, that survival is never guaranteed, that even abundance may carry within it the seeds of its own undoing. The morning sun climbs slowly over the horizon, casting its first rays across Pangaea's wide interior. The light is filtered through a haze of dust carried from deserts far inland, softening the edges of cliffs and forests. The land glows faintly red and gold, as though the earth itself were lit from within. The air is cool, carrying the resinous fragrance of conifers and the damp scent of soil heavy with night's dew. In this fragile hour, the world feels both ancient and newly born, as though every moment were the first. Along a shallow lake, life gathers. The water glimmers in the sun, broken by ripples where fish surface briefly before vanishing again. Amphibians squat at the edges, their slick bodies shining, throats pulsing with each breath. Some remain still, eyes fixed on insects skimming the surface. Others lunge suddenly, jaws snapping, ripples spreading outward. Their calls rise together, a chorus of low, resonant notes that echo across the water. It is a sound as old as life on land, a voice that connects oceans past with the creatures that dared to step onto soil. Above the water, insects hum, dragonflies hover, wings flashing like glass in the sun, while beetles crawl across reeds, their shells dark and gleaming. Ants march in endless lines, carrying fragments larger than themselves, weaving unseen order into the world around them. Insects do not draw attention the way larger creatures do, yet they are the silent architects of ecosystems, their work hidden but essential. Even here in the Permian, their dominion is undeniable. In the forests beyond, synapsids stir. A Dimetrodon moves slowly through the undergrowth, its sail glowing faintly as it captures warmth. It pauses at a fallen tree, tongue flicking across its teeth, nostrils widening to scent the air. Its patience is not laziness, but strategy, honed across generations. When the moment comes, it will strike with certainty, its power unleashed only when the odds favour success. Predators thrive not by chasing endlessly, but by knowing when to wait. Nearby, a herd of Dicynodonts moves through the forest. Their heavy bodies sway, tusks flashing as they root for vegetation. Their beaks snap through stems, their broad feet pressing deep into soil. They graze steadily, their rhythm unbroken, their persistence shaping the land. Youngsters remain close to adults, imitating their movements, learning through presence. In these gatherings we glimpse the faint beginnings of social instinct, the bonds of protection and care that will one day flourish in mammals. But danger shadows them. A Gorgonopsid crouches low in the brush, its saber teeth gleaming faintly. Its body is sleek, its gaze unblinking, its breath slow and measured. It watches, waits, calculates. A juvenile strays too far from the herd, distracted by leaves. The predator tenses, muscles coiled. The silence deepens, time stretches, yet whether it strikes now or waits longer remains unknown, suspended between hunger and caution. The scene is timeless, predator and prey locked in a dance of possibility, each bound to the other by necessity. Far beyond the forest, deserts stretch vast and empty. The dunes glow under the sun, shifting endlessly with the wind. Their silence is immense, broken only by the hiss of sand grains sliding across one another. Life is scarce but resilient. Small reptiles burrow beneath the surface, emerging only when the air cools. Plants cling to survival with deep roots and narrow leaves. The desert teaches patience, restraint, the wisdom of conserving energy. Its lesson is endurance, not abundance. Survival measured not in flourish but in persistence. The ocean too carries its rhythm. Panthalassa spreads unbroken, its waves rising and falling with timeless grace. Along coasts, reefs teem with life. Ammonites drifting in spirals, sharks patrolling with silent power, fish scattering in sudden bursts of silver. The waters shimmer with abundance, every niche filled, every crevice occupied. Yet beneath this apparent steadiness, change gathers. Sediments tell us oxygen levels are thinning, chemistry shifting. The sea, calm on its surface, carries within it the seeds of collapse. Catastrophe often begins unseen, its whispers too subtle for creatures to notice. As twilight falls, the world softens. Shadows stretch long across the land, the air cooling, the resinous scent of conifers deepening. Amphibians stir with renewed vigour, their croaks rising in chorus. Insects hum louder, their wings catching the dim light. Predators move more freely in shadow, eyes gleaming faintly in the dusk. The land exhales, the heat of day giving way to the stillness of night. The stars return, brilliant and unbroken. The Milky Way glows like a silver river, its light casting faint shadows on the ground. Meteors streak silently, vanishing in moments. The creatures of the Permian do not notice, but the stars shine on, patient witnesses to every age. Their constancy contrasts with Earth's fragility, reminding us that, while stars endure for billions of years, entire worlds can rise and fall beneath them in silence. And so we linger here, aware of what is to come but present in what is. The Permian feels eternal in its abundance, yet history shows its fragility. The great dying waits ahead, unseen, inevitable. Its shadow lies beyond the horizon, while life continues unaware. And we ask, when we imagine this world, do we see it only as lost history, or do we glimpse the truth of our own age? That balance is fragile, that abundance can conceal collapse, and that even in stillness, change is always approaching. The afternoon sky above Pangaea is wide and pale, the sun blazing down with relentless intensity. Heat shimmers above the plains, bending the air into wavering images, as though the world itself is trembling. The land glows with colour, reds of sandstone cliffs, gold of dry grasses, deep greens of scattered conifers. The air carries a sharp tang of dust, resin, and the faint sweetness of decaying leaves. To walk here is to feel time slowed, every detail stretching into significance, every shadow deepening with meaning. Along the banks of a winding river, creatures gather to drink. Dicynodonts move in slow procession, their heavy bodies pressing deep tracks into the mud. Their beaks dip into the water, tusks gleaming faintly as they lift their heads again. The herd stands close together, alert yet calm, their presence filling the space with quiet strength. Young ones huddle near adults, learning the rhythm of survival through imitation. It is not speed or cunning that sustains them, but persistence, companionship, and patience, the slow endurance of creatures built to last. On a nearby slope, a Dimetrodon watches. Its body lies still, its sail stretched wide, glowing faintly orange in the afternoon light. Its eyes are narrow slits, unblinking, its breath measured and slow. To an observer, it might appear idle, but this stillness is deliberate. It waits, conserving energy, watching for weakness. When the moment arrives, its body will erupt into motion with startling force. Until then, it remains a statue of patience, a predator shaped by the wisdom of restraint. The insects fill the air with constant sound. Dragonflies dart above the water, their wings glittering like stained glass. Beetles crawl along fallen logs, their bodies gleaming in the sun. Ants carry fragments of leaves in long trails that weave between roots. The forest floor hums with hidden labour, a miniature universe of motion. Insects, often overlooked, shape this world as much as any predator or herbivore, their quiet work weaving the threads of the ecosystem together. Farther inland, deserts stretch vast and empty. The dunes rise like frozen waves, their crest sharp against the sky. The sand glows red beneath the sun, radiating heat back into the air. Few creatures venture across this landscape, but those that do embody resilience. Small reptiles scuttle quickly, their bodies pressed low, leaving delicate trails erased almost at once by the wind. Sparse plants cling to existence with deep roots and tough leaves. The silence here is immense, yet it holds within it a fierce endurance, the strength of life that persists even when abundance is stripped away. Beyond the desert lies the sea. Panthalassa shimmers under the afternoon sun, its surface broken by the rise and fall of waves. Along its coasts, reefs teem with motion. Ammonites drift in slow spirals, their tentacles reaching into the current. Fish flash in sudden bursts, scattering at the shadow of a predator. Sharks patrol the depths, sleek and ancient, their presence as inevitable as the tide. The reef hums with hidden life, every crevice occupied, every niche filled. It is a world of abundance, of constant motion, of beauty built on fragile balance. But sediments whisper of change. The chemistry of the sea shifts subtly, oxygen waning in some depths, carbon rising, waters warming. To the creatures within, life feels steady, eternal. Yet history teaches us that abundance can mask fragility, that collapse often begins invisibly. The ocean, vast and calm on its surface, carries within it the seeds of its own undoing. As evening approaches, the light softens, shadows stretch long across the land, the air cooling with relief. Amphibians stir from shallows, their croaks echoing across water. Insects rise in greater numbers, their wings catching the fading light in glimmers of gold. Predators move more boldly, slipping through undergrowth, eyes shining in the dim. The land exhales, releasing the heat of the day into the breath of night. The stars return, brilliant and countless. The Milky Way arcs overhead, a silver river across the sky. Meteors streak briefly, vanishing almost before they're seen. No creature here names them, no myths are drawn into their light. Yet the stars shine on, patient and eternal. Their constancy contrasts with the fragility of life below, reminding us that ages pass swiftly, while the cosmos endures unchanged. To imagine this world is to feel both awe and unease. The Permian seems rich, steady, abundant, yet we know its story bends toward collapse, that the great dying waits ahead, unseen by those who live within it. The creatures here cannot know what is coming, just as we cannot always see the changes gathering in our own world. Their lives unfold as though balance were permanent, their rhythms steady, their futures assumed. And so we are left to wonder, when we gaze into this distant age, are we simply remembering what has been lost? Or are we listening to a quiet warning that life's balance, however abundant, is never secure, and that the silence of change often builds before it breaks? The sky at midday is almost blinding, washed pale by the heat that rises in waves from the ground. Across Pangaea's vast interior, the air is dry, carrying dust lifted from deserts that stretch unbroken for hundreds of miles. The sun presses down with relentless weight, and the land responds in silence. To stand here is to feel the earth as both immense and intimate, the stones beneath your feet warm, the horizon shimmering, the air itself alive with the pulse of heat. In this brightness, shadows gather beneath cliffs and trees, offering refuge. Within such pockets of coolness, creatures linger. A Dimetrodon sprawls across a rocky ledge, its sail angled toward the sun, glowing faintly orange as blood warms within. Its jaws open slowly, releasing heat in a long breath before closing again in silence. For hours it may remain in this position, conserving energy, waiting. This patience is survival, an adaptation as vital as teeth or claws. In the Permian, waste is costly, stillness is wisdom. Nearby, the forest breathes with quieter rhythms. Conifers stand tall, their resin oozing slowly, their branches whispering in the hot wind. Needles fall in showers, carpeting the earth in soft layers. Beetles crawl across bark, leaving faint trails, while ants carve unseen paths beneath. Seed ferns stretch wide fronds into the light, their delicate leaves trembling in the heat. The air is thick with fragrance, resin, damp soil, the faint sweetness of decay. It is a scent both foreign and familiar, carried across millions of years to us. Beneath the canopy, Dicynodonts move in steady rhythm. Their tusks gleam as they root through soil, their beaks snapping through vegetation. Their bodies sway with each step, pressing deep prints into the earth. Young ones shuffle near larger adults, their movements clumsy but earnest. In their persistence lies strength, not the ferocity of predators, but the endurance of herds, the quiet power of community. Their grazing shapes the land. Their presence anchors the ecosystem. In them we see not only the past, but the early whispers of a future yet to come, the beginnings of patterns that will one day belong to mammals. But danger shadows them always. A Gorgonopsid waits at the tree line, its body low, its gaze unwavering. Its saber teeth gleam faintly as the sun shifts, its muscles tense with restrained power. It does not rush, it waits, watching for weakness. The silence deepens, the herd unaware. The predator's patience is as ancient as life itself, a strategy written into every age. Whether it strikes now or later is uncertain, suspended between hunger and caution, survival and risk. The moment stretches, timeless. Beyond the forest, the desert holds its own truth. The dunes ripple under the wind, their surfaces shifting, like water frozen in motion. The sand glows red and gold, its heat rising into the air. Life here is scarce but enduring. Small reptiles leave delicate trails across the surface, only to vanish into burrows, where the air is cooler. Sparse plants survive with roots sunk deep. Leaves narrow to conserve water. The desert teaches restraint, the wisdom of endurance, the quiet strength of conserving energy until the moment of living becomes possible again. And then the sea. Panthalassa stretches unbroken, its waves glittering beneath the sun. Along the coast, reefs teem with abundance. Ammonites drift in spirals, their shells gleaming faintly. Fish dart in schools, scattering in bursts of silver when shadows pass overhead. Sharks patrol with ancient grace, their forms honed across millions of years. The reef hums with motion, every crevice alive, every niche filled. To peer into these waters is to glimpse beauty woven tightly into fragility. Yet sediments whisper otherwise. Oxygen wanes in certain depths. Chemistry shifts quietly. The ocean, vast and eternal in appearance, carries within it the seeds of collapse. The creatures swimming here do not sense it, living as though the sea were unchanging. But we know from stone and fossil that balance can falter, that abundance can mask fragility. The silence of change gathers long before it speaks aloud. As evening falls, relief comes. The heat lifts slowly, the air cooling, the resinous scent of conifers deepening. Amphibians stir along the water's edge, their croaks echoing across ponds. Insects rise in swarms, their wings catching the dim light in flickers of gold. Predators slip through shadow, their eyes gleaming in the dusk. The land exhales, the stillness of day giving way to the motion of night. The stars return, brilliant and countless. The Milky Way stretches across the sky like a river of silver. Meteors flash briefly, vanishing almost before they're seen. The creatures of the Permian do not look upward, yet the stars remain constant, watching. Their light, billions of years old, reminds us of scale, how brief even the longest ages of Earth are within the vastness of the cosmos. And so we linger here, aware of fragility but present in abundance. The Permian seems eternal, yet we know its story bends toward collapse. The great dying waits, unseen, inevitable. Its shadow lies just beyond the horizon, while life continues, unaware. And we ask ourselves, when we listen to this ancient silence, are we only hearing echoes of what has passed, or are we hearing faint reflections of our own world, fragile in its balance, unaware of the storms it carries within? The morning sun climbs slowly above Pangaea, its light spilling across mountains and valleys, deserts and forests, oceans and rivers. The land seems endless, a single body of stone and soil stretching unbroken across the globe. To walk here would be to step across continents without crossing seas, to move through deserts that seem infinite, forests that breathe in silence, and mountains that pierce the sky. The air is warm, tinged with dust, resin, and the faint mineral tang of stone carried on the wind. This is Earth in its unity, immense and singular, a world both fragile and vast. By a slow-moving river, life gathers. Amphibians crouch at the water's edge, their slick bodies shining, their throats pulsing as they breathe. Some lie still, waiting for insects to drift near. Others lunge suddenly, breaking the surface with a snap of jaws. Ripples widen across the water, then fade into stillness once more. In their bodies lies a story of transition, of the first creatures to bridge water and land. They are reminders that life is movement, change, experiment, always reaching beyond what is familiar. Above them, dragonflies hover. Their wings beat so fast they seem almost invisible, catching the sun in flickers of gold and green. They dart suddenly, veering in impossible angles, then pause to rest on reeds that tremble in the current. Beetles crawl along bark, their shells gleaming like metal, while ants carve hidden paths through soil. This miniature universe hums with activity, unseen yet vital, shaping the ecosystem in ways too subtle to notice at a glance. Insects dominate silently, their labour weaving the threads that hold the world together. In the forest beyond, synapsids move deliberately. A Dimetrodon rests in shadow, its sail glowing faintly as shafts of light pierce the canopy. Its body is still, conserving energy, but its eyes are sharp, scanning the forest floor. It waits not for the thrill of chase, but for certainty. This patience, this economy of motion, is its strategy. The forest itself carries its own rhythm, the whisper of wind through conifer branches, the creak of trunk shifting in heat, the slow drip of resin to the ground. The air is thick with fragrance, pine, damp soil, the sweetness of decay. A herd of Dicynodonts passes nearby, their bodies broad and heavy, their tusks gleaming as they root through vegetation. They move in loose formation, each feeding steadily, their rhythm unbroken. Young ones remain close to adults, imitating their movements, learning through proximity. There is strength in numbers, safety in companionship. Their slow persistence embodies resilience, the quiet power of community. They are not dramatic, yet they are essential, anchoring the ecosystem, turning plants into energy, sustaining the chain of life. But predators wait. A Gorgonopsid crouches in shadow, its saber teeth glinting faintly, its eyes fixed on the herd, its muscles tense. A juvenile strays at the edge, distracted. The silence deepens, the moment stretches. Will the predator strike now, or wait for another chance? Such questions remain unanswered, suspended in the timeless dance of survival. Predator and prey, bound together, performing roles written into the oldest script of life. Beyond the forest, deserts shimmer in the sun. Dunes rise and fall like frozen waves, their crests sharp, their slopes shifting endlessly with the wind. The sand glows red, reflecting heat into the air. Few creatures endure here, but those that do embody persistence. Small reptiles leave faint tracks across the surface, only to vanish into burrows. Plants cling to survival, with roots sunk deep into hidden moisture. The desert teaches restraint, patience, endurance, life honed to its bare essentials. Its silence is immense, yet within it lies wisdom. Survival not through abundance, but through the art of enough. The sea tells a different story. Panthalassa stretches unbroken around the supercontinent, waves crashing against rocky cliffs, spray carried on the wind. Beneath its surface, life flourishes. Ammonites drift in spirals, their shells gleaming, their tentacles curling with grace. Fish dart in schools, scattering when shadows approach. Sharks patrol with ancient certainty, their forms unchanged across ages because they're already refined. The reefs hum with hidden life, every niche filled, every crevice occupied. To peer into these waters is to glimpse abundance woven tightly together, fragile yet flourishing. And yet sediments whisper of change. Oxygen wanes in certain depths, chemistry shifts, balance falters. The creatures swimming here sense nothing of it, continuing their rhythms unaware. But history reveals the truth. Collapse often begins in silence, building slowly until its weight tips the scale. The ocean carries within it the seeds of transformation, patient and inevitable. As twilight comes, the heat lifts, shadows stretch across plains, forests breathe more deeply, the air cools. Amphibians croak from ponds, insects rise in swarms, their wings glimmering in dim light. Predators slip into motion, eyes gleaming, bodies moving more boldly under cover of dusk. The land exhales, releasing the breath of day into the stillness of night. The stars return, brilliant and countless. The Milky Way arcs overhead like a silver river, unbroken, eternal. Meteors streak briefly, vanishing into silence, No creature of the Permian looks upward to name them, yet the stars shine all the same, witnesses to every age of Earth. Their light reminds us of scale, billions of years measured in fire, while the lives of creatures below unfold in fragile balance, brief and fleeting. To linger here is to feel both awe and humility. The Permian world feels abundant, steady, eternal. Yet we know its story bends toward collapse, that the great dying lies ahead, unseen but inevitable. Its shadow approaches, though none here sense it. Life continues unaware, as it always has, as perhaps we always do. And so we are left to wonder, when we gaze into this ancient age, do we see only what was lost, or do we glimpse ourselves, creatures living as though tomorrow is certain, unaware of how fragile balance truly is? The day begins with a pale sun rising over Pangaea, its light spreading like a soft veil across the vastness of the land. The forests glow faintly in its touch, the deserts shimmer even in the cool of morning, and the mountains glint with snow at their peaks. The air is fresh, carrying the scent of resin, damp soil, and the faint tang of minerals borne on the wind. To awaken here is to feel the earth immense and unbroken, a single continent stretched from pole to pole, a body of land that feels almost alive. By a wide lake, the water reflects the sky in broken ripples. Amphibians crouch at the edges, their slick bodies glistening, their eyes fixed on insects skimming across the surface. A sudden lunge, a splash, and a ripple spreads outward before settling once more into stillness. Some creatures remain beneath the surface, their broad heads barely visible, waiting with patience honed by survival. They are reminders of transitions long past, inheritors of fish that first stepped onto land, bridges between worlds of water and soil. Above them the air hums with insect life. Dragonflies hover and dart, their wings flashing as they catch the light, their bodies gliding with impossible precision. Beetles crawl across reeds, their shells hard and gleaming, while ants move in determined lines across the ground. Insects, so small in form, dominate in number and influence. Even in the Permian, they shape the balance of ecosystems, pollinating plants, recycling decay, feeding creatures larger than themselves. Their presence is constant, their labour invisible yet essential. From the shade of nearby trees, a Dimetrodon emerges. Its body moves slowly, deliberately, each step pressing deeply into the soil. The great sail on its back glows faintly as the rising sun warms it, veins spreading heat through its body. It pauses, nostrils flaring, tongue flicking across sharp teeth. Its stillness is not idleness, but strategy, a predator waiting for the right moment, conserving energy until certainty comes. Around it, the forest breathes, the whisper of wind through conifers, the creak of trunks in the breeze, the soft fall of needles to the earth. Further along the forest floor, a herd of Dicynodonts grazes. Their heavy bodies sway with each step, tusks gleaming as they dig for roots and tear through ferns. They move in rhythm, their presence shaping the land itself, turning plants into sustenance, feeding the chain of life. Young ones shuffle near larger adults, eyes wide, movements clumsy but purposeful. In their closeness lies strength, a quiet form of protection, the beginnings of bonds that will one day echo in mammalian herds. They are not fierce, but they endure, and endurance is its own kind of power. But predators watch. A Gorgonopsid crouches in the undergrowth, its saber teeth gleaming faintly in shadow. Its body is taut, muscles coiled with restrained energy, its gaze fixed on the herd. It does not strike yet. It waits, patient, reading every movement, searching for weakness. A juvenile strays too far, distracted by fronds. The silence deepens, the moment stretches thin, suspended between action and stillness. The outcome is uncertain, but the balance of predator and prey is timeless, a rhythm that repeats across every age of life. Beyond the forest, deserts spread in silence. The dunes glow red and gold, their surfaces shifting endlessly under the push of wind. The air tastes of dust and heat, the silence broken only by the hiss of sand. Life here is scarce but enduring. Small reptiles scuttle quickly, leaving faint trails across the surface before vanishing into burrows. Sparse plants cling to survival, roots sunk deep, leaves narrow and tough. The desert teaches patience, the wisdom of endurance, the art of surviving with little. Its silence carries weight, a reminder that life thrives not only in abundance, but also in scarcity. And then the sea, Panthalassa, glitters beneath the sun, its waves rising and falling with slow majesty. Along the coasts, reefs bloom with abundance. Ammonites drift, their spirals gleaming, their tentacles curling gracefully in the currents. Fish move in shimmering schools, scattering like sparks when predators draw near. Sharks patrol with unhurried certainty, their forms already perfected by time. To peer into these waters is to see life at its fullest, every niche filled, every moment alive with motion. Yet even here, change stirs. Sediments record whispers of imbalance, oxygen thinning in some depths, chemistry shifting toward instability. The creatures swimming through these waters sense nothing, living their lives in rhythms that feel eternal. But history shows otherwise. Balance tips quietly. Catastrophe builds in silence. The sea, vast and steady in appearance, carries within it the seeds of collapse. As twilight arrives, the land softens. Shadows lengthen across forests. Deserts cool, and rivers glitter under fading light. Amphibians stir with renewed energy, their croaks echoing across still water. Insects rise in greater swarms, wings shimmering in dusk's glow. Predators move more freely, their eyes catching the dim light. The earth exhales, releasing the breath of day into the stillness of night. The stars return, sharp and brilliant. The Milky Way arcs across the sky, a silver river unbroken. Meteors streak briefly, vanishing almost before they are seen. No creature of the Permian looks upward, but the stars shine on, patient and constant. Their light, billions of years old, reminds us of scale, how even entire ages of Earth are brief against the vastness of the cosmos. And so we linger in this vision. The Permian feels abundant, steady, alive. Yet its story arcs toward collapse, the great dying waiting beyond the horizon. None here know it. Life continues unaware. But we, looking back, carry that knowledge. Perhaps this is the lesson the Permian offers, that change often arrives unseen, that abundance can conceal fragility, and that balance is never permanent. And we are left to ask, when we look upon this world, do we see only history, or do we glimpse ourselves? Living too as though tomorrow was certain, blind to the quiet shifts already shaping our future. The late afternoon sun leans low across Pangaea, casting long shadows over the land. Its light is golden now, softer than at noon, but still heavy with heat. The cliffs glow red, deserts shimmer like vast mirrors, and the forests are draped in a haze of dust and resin. The world feels timeless, as though it could remain in this suspended moment forever. Yet every detail carries the quiet pulse of change, the whisper that nothing endures unchanged. By a quiet pond, amphibians linger. Their bodies rest half in water, half on land, throats pulsing gently, eyes watching. When insects drift close, Jaws snap suddenly, breaking the surface with ripples. Their presence is ordinary yet profound, the continuation of a lineage stretching back to ancient seas. Each croak, each movement, is part of a story older than mountains, older even than forests. They are living bridges between worlds, creatures of thresholds, neither entirely of water nor fully of land. Above them, insects fill the air with sound. Dragonflies hover in shimmering arcs, wings flashing gold in the fading light. Beetles crawl along reeds, their bodies glinting. Ants march in determined lines, carrying fragments toward hidden colonies. The miniature universe hums with ceaseless labour. To notice it is to realise that life's strength is not only in the large and dramatic, but in the small and persistent. Even in the Permian, insects shape the rhythms of existence, weaving silent connections across ecosystems. The forest breathes deeply in the dusk. Conifers rise tall, their trunks straight and strong, their needles whispering in the wind. Resin oozes slowly, fragrant and sticky, trapping small creatures that venture too close. Over millions of years, this resin will harden into amber, preserving delicate bodies in perfect detail. Tiny fossils that will speak across unimaginable spans of time. To imagine holding such amber is to hold a moment of the Permian itself, a memory captured in golden stillness. Within the trees, Dicynodonts graze steadily. Their tusks gleam as they churn the soil, their beaks tearing at ferns and seed plants. They move slowly, deliberately, their presence shaping the forest floor. Young ones remain close, mimicking adults, learning through nearness. Their persistence embodies resilience, their togetherness a quiet form of strength. They are not fierce, yet they endure, and endurance is its own form of triumph. But shadows move as well. A Gorgonopsid slips between trees, its body sleek, its saber teeth glinting faintly. Its gaze fixes on the herd, its step silent, its patience unwavering. A juvenile wanders near the edge, distracted. The predator tenses, the silence deepens. Whether it strikes now or waits longer, the moment embodies the timeless balance. Predator and prey bound in a rhythm older than memory. Survival depends not on certainty, but on chance, on timing, on the fragile edge of decision. Beyond the forests, deserts glow under the sinking sun. The dunes, red and gold, ripple like waves of frozen fire. The silence is immense, broken only by the hiss of shifting sand. Life is scarce here, but enduring. Small reptiles burrow into the cooling earth, emerging only under stars. Sparse plants cling to survival, their roots sunk deep, their leaves narrow. The desert is not empty, but disciplined, a lesson in the art of enough. Its wisdom lies in patience, restraint, endurance without flourish. Farther still, the sea reflects the twilight sky. Panthalassa stretches unbroken, its waves tinted gold and violet by the setting sun. Along coasts, reefs teem with abundance. Ammonites drift gracefully, their spirals glowing faintly in the dim light. Fish flash in schools, scattering when shadows approach. Sharks patrol, sleek and certain, their presence timeless. Beneath the waves, life thrives, every niche filled. Yet sediments record whispers of imbalance, oxygen thinning, chemistry shifting, warning of collapse. The creatures swimming through these waters sense none of it. To them, life feels steady, eternal. But history shows how swiftly balance can falter, how silence can give way to catastrophe. As night falls, the stars return. The Milky Way stretches bright across the heavens, a silver river spilling across blackness. Meteors flash and vanish, too brief for any creature to notice. The constancy of the cosmos contrasts with the fragility of the world below. Stars endure for billions of years, while Earth's ages rise and fall in silence beneath their watch. The land exhales in darkness. Amphibians call softly from pools. Insects hum in steady rhythm. Predators slip through shadow. The forest breathes with slower cadence. The desert cools. The sea reflects the stars. It is a world both alive and fragile, abundant yet precarious. The creatures here live unaware of the storm that waits beyond the horizon. To them, life is steady, tomorrow certain. But we, looking back, know the truth, that the Permian bends toward its end, toward a collapse that will sweep away most of what we have seen. And so we ask, when we listen to this age, do we hear only echoes of what was lost, or do we hear a warning? That balance is fragile, that abundance may hide fragility, that change often comes unseen until it is too late. The Permian whispers across time, not only as history but as mirror, reflecting truths that belong to us as much as to them. The last light of day falls across Pangaea, turning the land to gold and crimson. Shadows stretch long over deserts, forests and rivers, while the air cools, carrying the fragrance of resin, dust and damp soil. The earth seems at peace, immense and unbroken, a continent gathered into one body. Yet beneath this stillness, forces are stirring. Deep in the planet's crust, magma moves. Volcanoes breathe in silence before they erupt. Gases rise unseen into the air. The stage is shifting, though none of the creatures that walk here can sense what lies ahead. By the shore of a shallow sea, life continues in its ordinary rhythms. Ammonites drift through twilight waters, their spirals catching faint light. Fish flash briefly before vanishing into deeper shadows. Sharks patrol, steady and sure, as they have for millions of years. In the reef, countless small forms feed, shelter, reproduce. Every moment feels eternal, yet sediments whisper of imbalance, oxygen thinning, chemistry changing. The sea is steady on its surface, but in its depths the balance falters. On land the forests breathe with evening. Conifers stretch tall, their needles whispering as the wind passes through. Resin drips slowly, fragrant and golden, trapping insects that wander too close. Amphibians croak from ponds, their calls rising into the night. Insects hum in swarms, their wings shimmering faintly in the dim light. A herd of Dicynodonts moves through the undergrowth, their tusks flashing as they dig for roots. They feed steadily, unaware that their lineage will soon face its greatest trial. A predator watches from the shadows, a Gorgonopsid crouched low, its saber teeth glinting faintly. The moment is timeless. Hunter and prey locked in tension, the rhythm of survival repeating as it always has. Beyond the forests, deserts shimmer beneath the fading sun. The sand glows red, cooling quickly as shadows deepen. Small reptiles scuttle across its surface before burrowing for the night. Sparse plants cling to the earth, roots sunk deep into hidden reservoirs. The silence is immense, yet not empty. It carries the quiet wisdom of endurance, of survival pared down to its essence. The desert reminds us that life does not need abundance to persist. It needs patience, resilience, and balance. The mountains, too, tell their story. Their peaks catch the last light, glowing faintly before sinking into shadow. Snow glimmers on their summits, while rivers carve deep valleys below. They are monuments to time itself, shaped by collisions of plates, lifted slowly, eroded grain by grain. Their silence is deceptive. Within them lies the restless power of the earth, forces that will soon reshape the world. The land feels eternal, yet nothing in it is still. As night deepens, the stars return. They blaze bright and countless, filling the sky with patterns unchanged since the Permian. The Milky Way arches like a river of silver, unbroken across the darkness. Meteors streak briefly, vanishing into silence. The stars bear witness, patient and indifferent, to the dramas below. They remind us of scale, that even the longest ages of Earth are brief beside the cosmos. Entire worlds rise and fall, while the stars shine on, eternal in their watch. And here lies the paradox of the Permian. To its creatures, life feels steady. Forests stand, deserts endure, seas teem with abundance. Every day resembles the one before, every rhythm feels certain. Yet we know what follows. The great dying, the most catastrophic extinction Earth has ever endured. Over 90% of marine species will vanish, and nearly 3/4 of those on land. Volcanoes will pour fire and gas into the air. Oceans will suffocate. Climates will collapse. The Permian world, so vast and vibrant, will fall silent. But this is not only a story of loss. Out of extinction comes renewal. The end of the Permian clears the stage for the Triassic, for new forms to rise, for the ancestors of dinosaurs and mammals to flourish. Life reshapes itself, as it always has, as it always will. Extinction and creation are bound together, part of the same rhythm. The silence of one age becomes the prelude to another. To imagine this is to feel both sorrow and wonder. Sorrow for the lives lost, the worlds erased, the abundance that vanished. Wonder for the resilience of life itself, for its ability to endure, to transform, to rise again. The fossils we find today are not only remnants of what was, but testimonies to survival, messages carried through stone. They remind us that we, too, are part of this continuity, threads woven into the same tapestry. As we close our journey through the Permian, let us linger in its silence. Imagine the hush of deserts cooling under stars, the whisper of wind in conifers, the croak of amphibians echoing across ponds. Picture the gleam of a predator's teeth in twilight, the steady grazing of herbivores, the shimmer of Ammonites drifting in the sea. These images are fragments, yet together they form a world, alien yet familiar, distant yet connected. And we are left with a final question. When we look back at this age, are we seeing only history, or are we hearing a reflection of our own time? For we too live in a world of abundance balanced on fragility, a world where change builds quietly before it speaks aloud. The Permian whispers to us still, not only of what has passed, but of what may come. And so, as the stars shine above and the earth breathes below, we close this chapter with gratitude for the lives that came before, for the lessons carried in stone, and for the reminder that in every ending lies the seed of beginning.